Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Being Real with Les and Nompi. Once again, we are here and we have another topic that really needs to be discussed rather. And we believe that justice has not been done on this topic, especially in the Christian community. So tonight, I have these beautiful ladies here and we'll be engaging in this topic. The topic is So I'm Divorced. Sounds catchy, right? I know. These beautiful ladies will be taking us through this conversation. Before we start with this conversation, I just want them to introduce themselves, tell us about themselves briefly, who they are, what they do, what they're all about. You know, we want to know who we're listening to. We'll start with Sia. Yes, ma'am, please introduce yourself.
Okay. My name is Siyandi Swazenani. Okay, everybody knows me by Sia. I am a person who tries to live her life as authentic as possible. I think that's what I'm known for, my honesty and authenticity. I'm a mother of three, beautiful daughter and two sons. And by day, I am an application developer. And when I am not busy writing code, I try life coaching, writing my book, and trying to uplift others. I think that sums a whole of me up. That's who I am.
Nice to meet you, Sia, and thank you so much for coming through. Did you tell people that you're outspoken? You speak your mind.
Yes.
She speaks her mind.
Doesn't always put me in good books, but yeah, I speak my mind.
Yes. Thank you for coming through and accepting the invitation. Slee, please introduce yourself.
So I should have gone first because, I mean, Sia's done such a great job and she's got a more colorful CV than me. But my name is Ngwangema. Where do I start? I'm a mother of two boys. I am I'm a feminist. I'm a woman after her own heart. I am a stakeholder engagement specialist where I work, and I'm a unionist. So I'm the chairperson of the Nehau branch for where I work. So it's all about advocating for workers and workers' rights and ensuring that you become the voice for the voiceless. So yes, in a nutshell, that's who I am. I'm single.
I like that. Just to put it out there.
Yeah, no, let me just mention that also as part of my CV. See, are you taken?
I am not. I am very single. Extra single.
I like that. These ladies are single, guys. I mean, yes, wherever you are watching, just note. Thank you, Slee, for coming through, accepting the invitation. As you have, the topic is, so I'm a divorcee. So these ladies are divorcees, and they're going to take us through this conversation about divorce. I'm very excited. I was sharing with Sia before we started to say, we've always wanted to have this conversation with Slindile, but the platform and the timing was not right. But we are here tonight. We're doing this to kickstart the conversation, guys. I would like you guys to share, just to give us a background, regarding your marriages and stuff. What were the reasons for you guys to get married? What were the reasons for you to get married? Maybe before you even get to that point, you can take us a bit about how you met your person, you know? Then we can get to that part of saying what were the reasons for you to get married. Who wants to start first?
Okay, let me start. It's fine. So where did we meet? We met at church. So it's nothing exciting. Like I wish we could have just met walking, at the beach. No, we just met at church. It's someone that I knew for some time. And yeah, why did we get married? So the first and foremost thing I think at the time, so there are a lot of reasons, right? And maybe at some point when we drill down into it, we might even find other reasons, the underlying issues that why would you want to get married. I was 23, he was 23. So we believed in love. I was in love with love, the typical girl that grows up aspiring and wishing to have a family. That was me. I also, being in the church setup, I wanted legalized sex because I felt or I believed, I was reading Joshua Harris at that time. What's the title of the book now? Oh,
I
it's such a
kissed
pity the
dating
guys.
goodbye.
Yes, yes, that was my manual. I
I was
kissed
there.
dating good. We all went through that phase. So yeah, it was. I wanted to save myself for marriage, and be married to this person and start having sex. Then, I wanted, but when I zoomed down, when I was listening to all of this, I then also realized that I was actually yearning for security. I grew up in a home where my dad left when I was 9. So I really, being married for me symbolized the hope of actually having that male figure that I can look up to and get. So that what I realized was the fundamental. The outside fluffy things would be that I wanted that couple at church, that look. I wanted the wedding day, but deeply, I think the yearning was to deal with my daddy issues, and I was not aware. I was not aware. To me, it was I was doing the Christian thing to carry yourself in this decent way and be able to attract, the best suitor, and those were the reasons. I see. I don't know for you.
Okay, for me, okay, where we met at Facebook, guys. We met at It was my Facebook friend, and it went from friendship to umjolo to marriage. The reason why I wanted to get married, I was at a point in my life. Okay, for me, I was already a single mother of 2. I was turning 30 that year. I felt like it was time. It was time to settle down. Every other area of my life was taking shape. Career-wise, I was doing well. Financially, I was okay. The only thing missing in my life was a husband, which is a father figure to my children. So as much as, yes, I had a good co-parenting relationship with the baby daddy, I wanted to have a husband. It's a Christian thing to do. It's a good girl thing to do. And as Lee said, I wanted to have sex in a marriage, I didn't want to continue fornicating. I wanted this to be done and proper. So when I met him, he seemed to be like the good guy, and okay, unfortunately, or fortunately, I got pregnant even before we got married. So the whole marriage had to be rushed. It was going to happen according to our plans, but now it had to be sooner because there was a baby coming. But yeah, that's the outline of it. It was that I was 30, I needed to get married. I was already a mother. I needed a father figure for my children. And it was time for this to be done and settle down and no be journering again and again. Yeah.
Wow. Hey guys. Okay. So those are your reasons for getting married, right? Father figure, sex, let's have it. Security and stuff. In retrospect, were those reasons realized when you got married?
No, not for me. For me, I've always, so I dream in 3D, ne? I know everything in detail that I want and that I need. So I knew very early the kind of man that I wanted, how he carried himself, how he would smell, how he would dress. And so, no, I walked in knowing what I wanted. But, as it goes, I think as we continue talking, I realized that I did not communicate my expectations clearly to him and to myself at the time. Because I think it's important for you to have that conversation to say, what are your expectations? Are they reachable? Are they attainable? And communicate it to the next person. So I don't think I did that well to communicate to him to say, look, dude, I actually had a vision and an image of who I want to marry before I met you. I remember through the Joshua Harris phase, I think I spent a good year praying specifically for a husband, going in detail as in the character he's supposed to be before I'd met my ex-husband, right? So no, so for me it's something that, and I think also growing up, you would look around and see your parents and see the mistakes that your parents are making. So I had this image, I had this man in my head that I wanted, and I knew clearly what it was going to be like. Did I understand it? That's something else, because I was 23. Did I communicate it to him? Was he capable of meeting those expectations? That's something else also. Because as I said, I realize now in hindsight that it was more of reaching out, me yearning for a need that my father avoided, that my father had left. So to expect a husband to fulfill that, I'm realizing now that maybe it may have been a big responsibility that I gave to him, and not even got his consent to say yes, he's willing or he's capable of meeting those needs. So yeah.
Sure. Let me jump in there. I no, none of the things that I thought would have was realized. No security, not a perfect father figure, not even a maybe good father figure for my children, and not even the priest of the home I thought he was before we got married. Because before we got married, he was that person who would pray together, would read the scriptures together, would do a lot of things, spiritual things, which I thought would be what I needed in my life and all that. I'm quite a strong person spiritually as well, but he came and became higher than me, so I thought I would have that kind of a leader in my life. But when we got married, I got to know the real person behind the preacher, the real person behind the sermons, behind the reading of the word, behind the prayers. None of my hopes or expectations were fulfilled. I had to now ask myself, am I dealing with two people here? There's the good preacher, prayer warrior, and spiritual guide for a lot of people. And he's an evangelist, he preaches and people get repent. But now when it comes to the day-to-day living of our lives, there's another person that I'm dealing with. So yeah, so none of my expectations were realized or were fulfilled. Even the fact that, by the time we actually got married, remember I said I was already pregnant, and I never wanted to be a single mother of 3, but I saw myself being a single mother in marriage, even though he was still there, even before we divorced. I found myself living a single mother of 3 life. And So honestly, none of the things that I was hoping I was marrying for were fulfilled.
Okay.
You
Oh,
know, Sia, and Seho, I think, look, for me, if I can just add to my answer also, for me initially, I must say,
Is it me or it's your network, Lee?
I think it's Lee's network.
there's certain
Okay, her network is
It's bad.
it's bad.
things or certain expectations. Oh, you hear me now?
Yeah, I
Can you
hear
please repeat what you were saying?
Oh, okay. I hope I'm audible now. So I was saying that there are certain things initially when the marriage started that he met certain expectations. One of them was he was a great dad. I remember when I gave birth to our son, our first son. I had to go back to work immediately after giving birth. I think I was at home for 2 weeks, and I left him with a 2-week-old baby because he wasn't working. And that man raised his son from 2 years, and I think he went to school around when he was over a year. So that whole year, he was the one taking care of a newborn baby. So there I have to give it to him. He was a great dad, which then nourished the need that I unconsciously had. Initially, also, I think he was a very loving person. Look, and then, as I said, I think the biggest challenge was that he then lost his job. And I think that's where everything went down here. So others will say true colors came out. Others will say circumstances just worked against us. And oh my goodness, then I realized I've actually married a man who's not kind. I've actually married a man who's actually not going to persevere in all of these things. But he ticked some boxes initially, and I can't take that away from him.
Okay. I was gonna ask that. It was gonna be my follow-up question to say, so what went wrong? So you actually have given us a bit of. I don't know if you want to expand on that. Would want to, to know what led to the divorce type of a thing. Before that, before we go there, I'm just thinking of when all these things were happening, ne, did you did you ever think, even you and Asia, did you ever think that perhaps God was not giving a go ahead regarding the marriage, or maybe it was before you get to that, what went wrong when everything was happening? What was your outlook on that? What did you think?
For me, to be honest, I think even by the time I went in, I was clear about God's stand on the marriage. I was clear that God had not approved it, but I stubbornly went ahead because it was fitting my plan, which I had then. And when I look now in retrospect, I was very short-sighted. I didn't think very much ahead in the future. I thought of taking care of the situation at that time and all that. And it was good. It was a good plan. So I was clear about God's standing in the whole thing. I knew that God had not approved it, but still I went ahead. So when things were going wrong, for me, okay, it started very early in our marriage because, okay, fine. Obviously, when I got married, I was 2 months pregnant. And the first maybe month to 3 months, things were okay. We were a good husband and wife, and we were doing things at church. We're trusted with some responsibilities at church and all that. And we were praying together. There was certain transparency, like phone wise and whatever. Like it was okay. And then when things started going wrong, it was sort of out of the blue, because we moved from being okay to not being okay, like in an instant. We just started fighting. We started fighting over the phone. We started over fighting about who I'm talking to. Why are you still talking to your unmarried friends? Type of thing. Why are you refusing to put a duke when you go to church? Why are you still putting on makeup? You still so we just went from a harmonious, okay thing to where I'm being questioned everything that I'm doing, where everything that I bring up is second guessed or questioned or shot down, where a person will stand in a pulpit and preach about me, about how disrespectful I am as a wife, because I am there sitting with long braids when the Bible is clear about beautifying ourselves and adorning ourselves with braided hair and whatever. And you see, so it went from, okay, we were okay, and then now we're not okay. So I was clear, but in me, I thought it's just a phase, it's going to pass. We're gonna be fine again. Like there was a time where we were okay, so we're gonna be fine okay again. And I thought so much amount of prayer, so much amount of faith and whatever, it's going to change him. He's going to change, he's gonna be fine. Maybe if we talk about it, things are gonna be fine. But 3 years later, things had gone from west to west to west to west. There was now cheating, there was physical abuse, there was financial abuse, there was pregnancies outside the marriage, there was a whole lot, you know. So then I realized that I have lost myself, you know, trying to save the marriage. I lost who Sia is. I now became a person whom I did not want to be, or I did not even associate with. And it took me to remind myself who I am for me to get out. To say, you had lived life and you had identified who you are before you met this person. And now the person you were before you met him and the person that you are now are totally two different people. And you do not like the person that you have become. So it was time for me to say, reclaim Sia back.
Mm. Mm.
Okay. Look, I think as Sia is speaking, I'm realizing the balance in our stories, because our stories are different, which is a good contrast. Look, I still ask God till today if He approved that marriage, because I strongly believe God approved it. As I said, I prayed a year prior to even meeting the
What
person.
happened?
Am I audible?
Yes,
You
I
are.
think mute
Oh,
other people less.
oh,
Let me
okay.
see. Okay, yeah. Let me mute someone here.
So I had prayed prior to saying this is the kind of person I want, before even meeting, with no picture in mind of specifically a person. So I believed that this is what God is approving. During the marriage, I prayed a lot. I remember I was 7 months pregnant and fasting to a degree that I was even dizzy. You know, I was physically ill. I had to be admitted in hospital because I was malnourished from the fasting and the prayer and pleading with God. You know, so was it approved? I still don't know. I still don't understand, because I had a real conviction from the beginning that God has approved this and I had done it the right way. So, yeah. What were the reasons for the divorce? Look, the reasons were many. I mean, as CS says, I mean, there were some synergies there. There was cheating, there was financial struggles. Excuse me, there was depression. I think we both had depression that was not diagnosed. So I would leave to work, he would sleep the whole day. He started getting physically sick. You know, it was just a toxic environment to be in. So and the friends we had surrounded ourselves with. And the sad part is that in the circle of friends that we were in, I think 80% of us got divorced. It's so sad. I mean, majority of us, this thing came, it came like a dark cloud over the church that I was in. I think more than, if I'm not mistaken, more than 10 couples and young couples divorced during that period. So we were also then part of a church that was young. I mean, the church, we were all, majority of us were young couples that had just met, from different places. So the church really didn't know, it found itself crippled. How do I assist? You hold here, it leaks here. You hold here, it leaks here. It was just an overwhelming phase, So there were many reasons, but I think one of the main reasons, besides my own daddy issues, we were just too young to navigate this Jurassic Park alone. And we were literally alone, because I grew up in a home with no dad. He grew up in a home with no mom, with a stepmom. So we both didn't have the experience or the model in front of us of what is expected, or how to be in a relationship or in a marriage, and a functional marriage. So we thought prayer was going to help us through it. Oh boy, did we not, find something else, because prayer is just not enough. So yeah, the reasons were many for why we didn't. But to go back to my initial answer, also my expectations, I look back now and I realize that, he couldn't be my dad. I shouldn't have expected that of him. And the tricky part and the funny part is that he picked up on my daddy issues first before me. So I was acting it out, in my subconscious, and, unconsciously, he picked it up and used it against me. So he realized I had abandonment issues and rejection. So I would just pack his bags, put them next to the door, and so that I see it every day. I wake up, I go to work, and there's a bag packed, and one day, while on my way back home, I'll get an SMS saying, yeah, well, because you are a man and a woman in this relationship, so stay with your relationship. And he would go home to his parents, stay there for a good 3 months, and I would find myself begging him to come back.
Yeah.
Hey guys, this is deep. I wish I was only listening, not asking questions, because now I need to think of the questions. And Sia, you mentioned how with you the red flags were there, and it was because of you wanted a father figure to the children and whatnot. The question that comes to mind is how, like, with regard to what Slee was saying just now, how great is the impact of our backgrounds in choosing marriage, the way you were saying, the picture that you painted, like how great is the impact of us making such decisions? I hope I'm making sense.
Yes, you are. It's great, hey. I also have my own daddy issues. My parents separated when I was 13. I actually am the one who told my mom to leave because we couldn't take the physical abuse anymore from my dad. And so I had my own issues even way before I met him. It's issues that I had tried to deal with in my life before I met him. And I thought I had successfully dealt with them. But I now when I look back, I realized that I had not dealt with them. So I had my own daddy issues, history of depression. Before I had met him, I had once been admitted for depression at a psychiatric hospital. I had my own issues that I had thought I had successfully dealt with, but I saw as I lived with him that actually he triggered all of them because I had not successfully dealt with him the way that I thought I had done. The red flags that were there that I totally ignored. Honestly, any person who loves themselves enough should have seen them and ran away from like the first instant, you know. But because I had these issues, which now I translate to I did not love myself enough. I stayed, you know, and I thought ukubekezela and all that will help things out. And I even measured my strength to the amount of pain that I can endure. I for some reason, you know. So any other person, I would say, first of all, do not betray your integrity. If it's wrong, it's wrong. A red flag is a red flag. It can never be yellow or purple or pink any other time. So stop justifying it. Stop trying to find a justification for it. It's very important to check the background of the person. It's very important to know the person who he is, because most of the issues that we had or he had as a person, it's issues that did not just start because he was with me. It's issues that were there. And maybe I became a bigger trigger or a bigger opposition in his life because he kept on telling me that I was becoming a man. I am a man and I'm used to being a man and I must remain a man. So he cannot be a man whilst I'm a man as well. I know I'm a very independent person, very strong-willed, and I don't shy away from voicing my opinions. And that was a threat to him because he wanted me to be this mellow, submissive person who doesn't question anything, who just accepts whatever they are told. And he found out that I'm not that person because I am who I am. I am a strong-willed person who has always been independent, who has navigated her life by herself, you know, throughout. So it became a problem for him. So I had an issue because I don't think I had taken my time to truly know who Sia is and what makes her tick and everything. And I also didn't take time to get to know him. By the time I saw the red flags, things were so advanced in our lives. And I felt that I had no way out. Hence, I continued with the marriage and everything because by the time I saw the red flags, there was a baby growing in my tummy and there were marriage plans, there were wedding plans in place and everything. So as much as there was that thing that says, get out right now, there was everything else that was going on. And I was like, okay, let me just go ahead, you know? So had I taken time to get to know him before jumping deeper into the relationship, I probably would have not crossed the line. I would have turned him away, but I didn't take time to know him.
Wow. I don't know, Slee, if you want to go further with regard to your issue of your dad not being present, like how our backgrounds really impact us, like the people that we choose and stuff. I don't know if you want to go further on that one.
Yeah. Look, I think it's detrimental for a person who hasn't fully discovered themselves to go into a marriage. And the reason for that is because you really, really need to invest in your own emotional health and understand yourself, because we've got past traumas, and some of which that we are so unaware of, but they trigger us every day, and they trigger us because especially if those traumas come from relationships, you know what I mean? So my dad left when I was 9, and the manner in which he left also, I think, left me with a lot of guilt. He had disappeared for a few months. He came home randomly that one day, and I then said to him, And then I just wanted to update him and overload him with how my life was going. And then I asked him, I think it was for 20 Rand. I said, I'm going on a school trip. Can I please have 20 Rand? And that's when it's all erupted. You always want money. You want my money. And wah, wah, wah. And then he just got violent. And that was the last day we saw him. So I always sat with the guilt that says, if I had not asked him for that money, he would have stayed. So here I am now with a husband who says, I love you, I want to marry you. And I'm conscious every day not to do things that are going to make him leave.
Yes.
And I then turned the marriage to be toxic because I just then overburdened this man with love that he couldn't understand, and when you literally go on your knees begging someone to be with you, I really didn't feel I deserved that love. I really didn't feel that. So the impact was big. And that is why I think it's important that when we encourage people to get married, young people to get married, it's important that we also zoom in on the person to say, are you aware what your triggers are? Are you aware what your traumas are? Are you aware that they grow in a relationship because they're constantly triggered? And the more you don't work on them, the bigger they get. And I was not aware. I look back, I realize he's got his own traumas. He had two young people who are trying to heal from their past traumas with love alone and prayer.
Doesn't work.
No therapy, no other support at all. And you just think because we love each other, it's enough. It's not enough. And so unfortunately, the money issue that my dad left with now comes into my marriage, because now I'm married to a guy. Suddenly he's lost his job for 6 years. This guy's not working. And so it just, I'm inheriting. It's the same cycle. It's the same cycle, of which I'm grateful to God now that I have a better relationship with my dad. I now look at men differently. I now receive men differently. I now understand men differently, which was a huge, stumbling block in my marriage. And I've said to my dad, maybe if you were still there, maybe if you were there, that marriage would have survived, because my whole thinking and approach to that marriage would have not been from a desperate position.
Wow.
I want to say something there. It's the checking of the background and all that what Slee is talking about. When we have not dealt with our own traumas, our past traumas, we tend to marry our fathers. We tend to people that are like our fathers. It took me a long time to get to that point of realization, because I married a preacher, good Christian and all that. I thought I had run away from marrying my father, because with my father, there was an issue of alcohol. He was an alcoholic. And so whenever he would beat my mother, for whatever reason, we always thought it was because of the alcohol, And by the time we asked my mom to actually leave him and all that, he was drunk that day and he had done something worse than he had been doing. And we asked my mom to leave. So I thought that I would never marry a person who doesn't go to church, number one, because there is a safe net of church and this person knowing God and all that. And when I met my husband, it soon seemed like much more spiritual than me, and which made me feel safe with him. But I later realized that character-wise, I had married my father. The physical abuse that my mother went through and they exposed us to, I was doing the same thing. I was going through physical abuse and I was exposing my kids to. And it had to get to a point where my kids sat me down and they were like, Mama, we know you. You've been happy before. right now you're not happy with this person. We don't even know why you're still with him because it doesn't make you happy. And then they went on and told me about everything else they had witnessed between us. And then I realized that my children have become me now. They have actually, like the way I set my mother down, now they were also sitting me down. And I was like, but I thought I had broken the cycle. And it seemed like I was continuing with it. And subconsciously, and without even me being aware of it, I had actually married a man like my father. Even the whole thing about work and everything at home, it was always my mother was working. I had never seen my dad going to work a single day in his life. He's always been the person who sells this and that, trying this and that and whatever, but it has always been my mother who was working. Now I was doing the same thing here. My husband wasn't working. I was the one who was responsible financially for the household and everything. So I realized that all the issues I thought I had dealt with, my daddy issues, all the past traumas, all the depression and everything I thought I had successfully dealt with, I really had not dealt with. And hence I chose my father again.
Yeah, I identify with you, Sia. I think, but what we also need to admit in this conversation is that men also have issues with their mothers.
Yes.
And you marry. So I want to go to this point that you were saying that it's important to understand the person's background, because, and without being superficial, because you need to be able to say, this is this person's trauma. This is how his family is. This is the structure of his home. These are the finances of that home. This is how they communicate. This is how they talk to each other. This is how they deal with problems, and then be able to pull yourself back, or make that decision to go in. But the question is the pressure also then that comes from the church, because in the church, if you're now going to judge a person based on what they present in the church will say, no, but you guys are a perfect match. So there are so many dynamics that influencing a young people at this point, especially from the church point of view.
True. Very true.
Listen,
Wow.
I think you're back.
Okay. Wow, so I'm just reflecting as you guys are talking. You mentioned like the issue of healing before you get into a relationship. Is it about any relationship? Like, because my philosophy in life is that not all relationships will lead to marriage. You need to accept that. Others are just there to open our eyes to who we are and prepare us for the ultimate one. And my philosophy in life is healing is a lifetime process. It's a lifetime. We can never say, I have arrived, type of a thing. So now, if you guys are saying we need to, you did not say that, but what I'm getting from you guys is saying there's a need for healing before we can embark in this journey of relationship, because we might find ourselves marrying our fathers, or it might not be our fathers, but dealing with traumas that happened, that triggers, So what are you saying about healing? Should I wait until I'm okay?
No. Okay. For me, I think the power of awareness
is
critical. You just need to be aware. It's a good start. Because if you are not aware, as I said, your triggers then become your weaknesses. Your traumas then are used against you, because people around are conscious of certain things that you are faced by. So the starting point is awareness. Are you aware of what are your traumas? And are you aware of your partner's traumas? And once both of you can admit and say, I've got daddy issues, and then he says, I've got maybe financial issues, then he can be in a better position to say, but I can't deal with insecurities and all the drama that come with daddy issues. And you can say, well, I also can't deal with a broke ass somebody, you know. And then you are able then to make a conscious decision at that point to say, you know, we tried. And then it becomes what you're saying. Healing is a long-term thing. And I think, unfortunately, the decisions that we make in relationships, they impact other people. Our divorce has hurt so many other people. There are children involved, there are extended families, you know, we've hurt each other. You know, I had a conversation and where I took accountability, you know, in front of my family, and I said, you know, guys, I think I hurt that person, you know, in the way I spoke to him, or in the way I expressed my disappointment, or even whatever, you know. And it was important that I acknowledge my contribution to the failure of the marriage. And those things are going to help me going forward in the next marriage, because yes, I hope I get married again. So awareness is important.
Yeah.
And that's where healing begins.
I want to add on that. I want to agree with you, ladies, that healing is a lifetime thing. It's a commitment thing, like you're committed to your healing. I don't think any of us would ever get to a point where they're like, yay, I've healed of everything. I'm fine. I'm 100% okay. I usually, there's a quote I like that says that healers need to heal. And healers need to learn. And as the work of healing others continues, you also healing. So there's not going to be a point where you get and be like, you know what, I'm good. I'm 100%. I do a lot of talking to people about their deep issues and whatever. And as I engage people in their own issues, I have to distance myself from them, as much as some of those issues trigger my own issues, and then realize that, okay, there's this part that hasn't healed. There's this part that you haven't dealt with, you know. So it's an ongoing process. But what we are saying is that be aware of those things. Like also even the awareness thing, it's an ongoing thing, because there are certain things that get triggered by other people's reactions or by other people's behaviors. And you then realize that, oh, okay, there's that as well. I thought I was okay, you know, but this behavior has triggered this certain part, you know. So when you become aware of it, you have to do something about it. The biggest problem that we do, especially us as ladies, when that trigger comes, we make an excuse for it. And then we quickly move on to the next thing without having to deal with that particular thing. So we'll make an excuse that, no, man, that should have made me angry because this is what he said. But I've realized most of the time, we're not even angry because of the things that people said to us or what they did to us, but we are angry because of what they triggered in us. So we're angry because of whatever that came up when he said that particular thing. So a person could say a very innocent thing and you feel pained by that thing. And then when you look at it deeply, you're like, oh, okay, this is because it reminded me of this particular instance in my life. So it's not necessarily a bad thing that this person said to me or a hurtful thing that this person said, but because of my own triggers, I'm now hurt. So when we become aware, the work continues. The work continues. We deal with that particular sore point, and we don't just make an excuse for it or cover it up. We deal with it so that we're able to relate better.
Okay, I hear you. Awareness is important. So wherever a person is in their lives, if I'm getting you guys correctly, is therapy is important.
Yes.
Therapy is important. In a relationship or not, make sure that you attend therapy so that you become aware of your issues. And, you know, I've realized that sometimes we're not even aware that we have issues, but once we go for therapy, it reveals that actually there's an issue here and there. So even if you think you don't have issues, go for therapy. You might be surprised. Or if you don't have issues, it will help you enhance whatever that you know to develop as you get into your relationships. All right. But now there's a question I asked. I don't think you guys answered it, but it's okay. So what got you guys to like here now, I'm leaving this relationship. I'm leaving this marriage. And please take us a bit back that what did you try before, but you're like, no, man, let me try and work on this, what was influencing you to stick around, and later on you're like, I know this is too much, I'm out?
For me, we identified that, okay, he had anger issues, one of the problems, and I engaged him, and I was like, I think you have anger issues and I gave examples and whatever, and he said, no, I'm going for anger management, what. He convinced me, and when I saw that things were not working, we tried therapy, went to a pastoral, a counselor, and we tried talking to him, but when I looked back into the sessions that we had, I felt like everything was being pinned on me. I was the wrong one. There was nothing wrong I was doing. I'm the one who was being unreasonable and having too much expectations and whatnot and whatnot. And I was being a man. That's one thing that was consistent throughout the marriage, that I was a man. I took decisions on his behalf. I did things because I had the financial muscle. I'm the one who was working. So because I had money, I thought I could bully him. So in all our talking and therapy sessions and him saying he attends anger management, there was a lot of prayers. I remember it was the war room hype. I even had a war room. Because I honestly wanted to give this a chance. I wanted to pray, and I wanted to really rescue the marriage. So in all those trying therapy, trying anger management classes, trying to talk to each other, trying to be nice to each other, and apologize when we're wrong. And okay, a lot of silent treatment in between and a lot of prayers, but nothing was working. Eventually, as I said earlier, I had to discover that I had totally lost myself. And I did not know the person I had become, and I didn't like that person. And I had to snap out of it and reclaim the person that I knew I was.
Slee? Seems like Sleecia's.
Her network seems to be struggling.
Yeah. Okay, maybe while we're waiting for her, did you ever get to a point where you were thinking, what will people say? Did that happen at some point?
It did. It did, and I think it's what for a greater part, it's what kept me. One of the reasons I stayed is that remember, I was already 30 when I got married. I was turning 30 that year, 29, turning 30. I already had 2 kids, and I had before him, I had a relationship which almost resulted in marriage, So there was all these to think about, that, okay, if ngiyohluleka apha, it means that there's something wrong with me, it cannot be that all these men, there's something wrong with them, So there was the bazothina band. What will people say if I get out, And it kept me there for a while. And because remember, I said that I knew that God had not approved the whole thing. I think in a way I wanted to prove a point. There was part of me that wanted to prove a point that I can do this thing, I can stay in this thing and we can make it work. And so there was the Bazothina Bantu syndrome that kept me for a while, but I had to honestly eventually get a snap out of it. But like, this is my life, and I'm destroying my own life by continuing to stay. So let's forget about what people will say and let's do me. And it helped me to reclaim myself, to like, what, forget about whoever is going to say what. Now we're reclaiming Sia.
Okay. Slee? She's there. Looks like she's frozen.
Hi,
Yeah,
guys.
she's frozen.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
we can.
Ooh, yeah, my network is giving me problems. What did I try? So I think in my own books, we tried everything. Or, I asked for family intervention. In my culture, runs away or she leaves the house, go looking for the wife. My granddad and my mom to say, but guys, let us go there. And they were saying, but you are asking us to what is like, that's how desperate counseling. He refused counseling for the longest of time. I started going alone. I went to this famous marriage counselor from our church who told me how terrible I am as a wife.
Sure.
I think because maybe the narrative of how I presented, I always try when I speak about my divorce to not create him to be a monster, and to give an equal picture of how I also messed up in the whole process. I mean, we separated 2014, so it's been a good 7 years, if not more, that we are not together. But I still try to say when I present the picture, so it must be a holistic picture and not necessarily him being the problem. But that worked
Yeah.
against me in the counseling. Oh my goodness, the guy went on and told me how terrible I am. I went back, licking my wounds, trying to be a better wife. Eventually we went for counseling to a pastor, the pastor who married us. And the pastor says, but Slindile, sometimes you must just understand, we just have erections, it doesn't mean we've been cheating. And sometimes semen just comes out. So if you see his things, messed up, you must just not think like it was that bad, guys.
Mm.
Like I left so phased and confused. Like, so everything was done. And as Sia said, also a lot of prayer. I mean, I was highly pregnant and praying and fasting and starving myself, and, throughout the process. So I think we both tried. I don't know. I don't want to say he didn't try. Maybe he tried the way, in whichever way that was suitable to him. But yeah, we found ourselves in this position. And I think my advice to people would be, there is nothing more fulfilling than saying, I gave my best.
Mm.
I think the silent treatments, the ego that goes into marriage, the pride that rules in marriage,
Mm.
at the end of the day, it affects. Could have been kinder. I could have been nicer. I could have spoken to the person, even if they didn't want to speak to me. I could have. And where I'm sitting today, the reason I have no desire of ever going back to my ex is because I believe I did everything in my being to to make the marriage work, but to also appeal to him, to say, let's make this thing work. So I respect him, because he packed his bags and said, I'm out. So we always have, not always because we hardly speak, but whenever we have this conversation, his story is different to mine. He says, I threw him out. I say, you left. And I said, don't come back. So I still sit here and I say in my own head, my ex-husband respected his happiness. He would not stay in a house where he felt he was not happy. And I didn't love myself enough, Sia,
Okay.
Mm.
to have the courage to walk out.
Yeah.
Mm.
He
Mm.
look, he was very clear. He wasn't working, but he would tell you, I don't wear this brand. I don't eat this kind of food. I don't, so he valued his happiness. And if he had not packed that bag, I would have stayed in that marriage. So to me, I always envy him for saying, look, you realized I've got a beautiful wife, but I'm not happy. So what's the point? And, he took a decision, and he took a bold decision that I wouldn't have taken. Other people will look down on it and say, he left his children, he left a wife, it was irresponsible. He valued his sanity. He left. And it didn't matter how much money I gave him. It didn't matter how much sex. In actual fact, he even rejected my sex. And that's how the guy was like, I don't need you. And he proved it over and over. He does not need me.
Yeah.
Hey, I hear you. So he's the one who left. That's why then you went ahead with the divorce. You didn't have a point where you're like, what will people say?
That's my story. That's my story, that he packed his bags, right? And I then said to him, don't come back if you leave now. Because he had done it 5 or 6 times in the 6 years. I said, if you leave now, don't come back, right? That's my version of it. He says, I threw him out. I don't know what happened. Well, only God knows then who is right, in that situation. But I filed for divorce. So this all happened in 2014. I then had a conversation with God. I said, God, I'm going to give this marriage 6 months. After he had left, I said, in this 6 months, show me what I need to do. And I extended the 6 months to a year. I met up with him. I reached out to him after the 6 months. I said to him, I've had a conversation with God. I want to give this marriage another chance on these conditions. And I laid them out. I said, 1, get therapy. 2, go and apologize to my family. You've disgraced our family, my family, 3, let's start courting each other all over again. I said, take me out on dates. Let's start from scratch. Let's redo this thing. And 4, let's agree that we are going to co-parent the best way we know how. So in all these preconditions that I had put, he didn't do any of them. He did not do any of them. My son asked me today, as we were watching some TV program, I don't know, Housewives or what, we were both on our phones, so I wasn't even concentrating. And there's a lady there who was divorced for 12 years and went back to the husband, Jerome something, he's a pastor. And my son then says,
this network.
Yeah.
Then I speak to my son. Am I cutting again?
Yeah.
Yes, please repeat.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so we are watching this show, and I was housewives of, I don't remember of what, because I don't watch these housewives. So a lady there was divorced for 12 years and went back to the ex-husband. So I then start the conversation to say, look, my boy, women don't treat each other like that. We don't throw things at each other and then sit and dine the next day. And we don't, women don't ever think what you're seeing on these housewives of what. That's how women behave. We don't behave like that. And then he says, yeah, okay, I hear you, but would you go back to my dad? And well, because we normally have these conversations with the boys and how they are ready for a father, and so I said to him, look, the one reason that convinces me today that I will not go back to your father is the way he treats you guys. I had better father to you guys, maybe he would have reached, me in my heart. But the fact that he doesn't call you guys, he doesn't show up for you guys, he doesn't even know, what you eat, your school reports. I said to him, you just got your report last week. Did he call and check? So, based fundamentally on that point, it makes me sure today. I don't know about tomorrow, but today I'm very sure. And I will not go back to that relationship. And also, and that has been my standing point since 2014. And we're in 2021 now.
Yeah.
So yeah, we tried everything. I tried everything.
Yeah, I hear you. See,
Yeah.
if you would come and say, I've been going to therapy,
Ah.
I am okay, I want to give this a try.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I honestly, I would never, like, I can never. That for me is one relationship that almost destroyed me, like, completely, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And by the time I walked out, I was deeply wounded, deeply. I've done a lot of work in my healing journey. I'm not bitter. We're actually very civil to each other. We co-parent very well for our son. But he is not a person I will ever go to. Like, even if Bangati I, there's only one man left on earth. It's him. I will say no, thank you. I just cannot.
Yeah.
I don't think I will ever get to a point where I trust him that much. Like, as much as I've healed, yes, and I'm doing well in my healing journey, and all that, I'm no longer bitter, I'm no longer hurt, probably, but I cannot. I don't think I'll ever allow myself to trust him that much because I almost died.
Wow. While you're talking about healing, and have you guys fully forgiven? Have you forgiven these guys?
I can safely say so, hey? I can safely say so. For me, my forgiveness was accelerated by the fact that we have a child together. I think if we didn't have a child together, probably would have thrown him in some far away memory in my mind and pretend as if he doesn't exist. And I wouldn't have to deal with him. I wouldn't have to deal with forgiving him, But the fact that we have a son together, whom we have to be civil for his sake, I think my forgiveness journey was therefore accelerated because I remember the first time we spoke of co-parenting, it was actually enforced by the court because he had taken the child without my consent, and I had to fight him to bring the child back. It had to go to court, and therefore the co-parenting plan was drafted. And then after that, he disappeared in our lives. And then the child had to go to my mom for some time because I was not coping. So we started talking about the co-parenting plan when the child had to come back from Ekai. And I knew at that time I was still very mad at him. I was still very bitter. I was still very hurt. But now, because we had to talk constantly about the child, when is he coming back, what is going to be my contribution in his life, and where is he going to go to school, and all that, I had to slowly allow forgiveness to take over and get to a point where I can talk to him without wanting to slap the living day out of him, So I had to allow my heart to heal and forgive him. And now I'm at a point, honestly, also again, the fact that I have been very vocal about my issues. I've been vocal about my struggles and my life with him. It has also helped in my forgiveness, in my healing journey, because I had to speak from a point of victory. I had to get to a point where I speak from a point where I'm no longer a victim, but a victor. So it helped me to get to process the feelings and forgive him, so that when I talk to people, I'm not the battered seer, the victim seer, but I'm the
Yeah.
victorious. Yeah.
Okay. See.
Forgiveness. Look, I had to do the work. In proper healing. So I went for therapy. With a group of friends, we started a foundation for single women who are mothers. It's called the Lioness Tribe. And through the programs that we have in the Lioness Tribe, I was able to heal. I was able to identify and grow from the experience. The challenge about life is that um, whatever challenges come, it may come as a pebble initially, but if you don't look into it, and if you don't grow from that experience, it will then become a rock. Like life, the universe is constantly trying to teach us to be better human beings. So I knew that I needed to learn and grow and be better from the situation. Otherwise, I would find myself repeating the situation. I needed to heal for my children's sake. Um, the bitterness was heavy. The depression became worse. For my own ability to be able to survive and be a better mother, I needed to heal. I know there is a question was, and I'm telling you, I did the whole El Shalada. I even went and done a boudoir, to relearn and when I took those pictures of myself naked, it was important for me to see myself through another person's eyes, through a different lens, because I was told I'm unattractive. I was told no one will ever want me. So there was a lot of unlearning that I needed to do. And I believe right now I've forgiven him. But what I still have a problem with him is how neglected his children. That I don't forgive him for, even today.
I hear you. This thing is tough, eh?
Yeah.
You ladies have been through the most. I can only imagine. So I wanted you to take me through that phase of after the divorce, getting healed. But I think you've touched on it. If you want to touch on it, you will touch on it as I ask this question. How was the support system? Like, who were your support system after the divorce? Like, who was carrying you?
Mm, mm. Okay, so for me, my support system was my mom. Oh my goodness, my mom. I would have never survived it without her, and it's so painful that she passed away last year, 2019. She sat with me at the divorce court. My divorce was rejected the first time around. I applied again, got new lawyers. She was with me through that whole process. I had a friend also from that circle, remember that I told you about? She also was going through a divorce. So it then became our journey. So I was there at her divorce court. She was there at mine. Both guys never pitched. So it was also much better. Um, and then I had a friend from work, and this friend helped me through. You know, when a toddler is learning to walk, she held my hand, and I started learning life again. And look, we did the good, the bad, the ugly. She tried everything, from how I look. She says to me, why are you not wearing earrings? Why are you not wearing matching this and that? Why are you not? So she would say, let's go out for drinks. I had my first alcoholic drink because she said, it's either you get depressed or you get drunk. Choose one. She assisted, as I said, I also went for boudoir. I got this lady who was a photographer. She did beautiful pictures of me in my lingerie, some nudes, because I needed to have a different view of who I am in the process. And there in that process, I then realized, okay, alcohol is not for me, or okay, this is not for me, or okay, I'm now looking for coping mechanisms, and I was able to choose what is best.
Mm.
It won't help us to have this conversation if I'm not going to be vulnerable enough to say I've tried everything to cope in the situation,
Mm.
and to heal in the process. And the biblical way alone for me as Slindile didn't work. But
Mm.
the miracle in all of this, the divinity in all of this, is that everything else that I tried, whether it was therapy, whether it was alcohol, whether it was, dating again, all brought me back to God.
Mm.
So I had this anger that said, God, I prayed for 6 years
Mm.
plus the year before for this marriage. Why couldn't you save it?
Mm.
And I stopped going to church. I stopped going to church. I think for a good, maybe God doesn't love me because this was very important to me. Why wouldn't I tried to find it everywhere. And I am glad that today I have different eyes. Even when I look at other women who go through what I'm going through, I cannot, I can't help myself but want to be there for another woman instead of saying, oh my goodness, she's an alcoholic. Oh my goodness, she's,
Mm.
dating everybody under the sun. Oh my goodness, she's rebelling. Because I went through that journey, I
Mm.
no bone in me today can judge,
Mm.
unlike then, because I was this virgin who, had lived this beautiful holy life, graduated, did things the right way, got married, have children. And I would look at these women and say, you are on child number 2 or number 3. Why? So I think, God takes us through certain journeys because we need to learn humanity
Mm.
and how humanity meets divinity,
Yeah.
Mm.
you know and that pedestal we are on, like, we are brought down nicely, calmly, between you and God. And God says, life, this is life, and this is what divinity is all about. So yeah, I went on that journey of self-discovery. The support system had to be my mom alone and friends, because I could not get shelter in the church. We
Mm.
had the same friends, we had the same pastor, and
Yeah.
the church tend to feel they need to take a side. you
Mm.
know, the church will then say, hey, but Slindile is too vocal. Slindile is too controversial. Slindile is too, and people now want to reflect how you behave and say, then most probably she's the reason. People then go to
Mm.
conclusions, based on, and they don't know, and they don't understand. So I cannot lie today and say I had support from the church. In actual fact, there was, I think the next question was, how does the Christian community treat you?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that it went in phases for me. And I'm already jumping to the next question. So Sia
It's
maybe can answer
okay.
both. So it went in phases how the Christian community treated me. The first phase for me, avoidance, because we had the same friends and the same circle and the same this. People then couldn't look at me, so people started avoiding me. Um and 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 then you feel alone. Then you reach out. Being Slindile, I'm not shy. I will then call them and say, I need help. He's not here. He's not, I need this, I need that, I'm struggling here, I'm struggling there. And people will really, the second stage, then I realized people are helpless. People did not know what to do. We were a young church. Chances are people were also dealing with their own issues. They were also dealing with their own struggles. And I just expected too much, maybe from the church. I don't know. So stage number 2 was helplessness. People around me felt responsible. They felt helpless. They felt they didn't know what to do with us or with me. Then there's the exciting stage, which is when people get intimidated by a divorcee, especially a woman. So that stage, so you move to a new church now because you're thinking, let me start afresh. And everywhere you go, you get side-eyed because now you are going through a journey. You are picking yourself up. You are at that stage where you are rebuilding yourself. You are coming across like this divorced, very horny slut that is just, so you walk into church and people think you're just gonna, people think you're gonna grab their husbands and pin them. Really, you are just trying to deal with your own issues. So there is that part where also without people, those who don't feel intimidated by your beauty and your singleness, the second level of people are intimidated by how you are disrupting their illusion. Because at church, we wear these matching outfits, we sit there and we were stabbing each other yesterday, like literally punching each other in the face. And here you are a single person, and people are not despising you as a person, they're despising what you are representing because you are triggering a lot for them. So church then becomes uncomfortable with you because she's divorced. But why are we not divorced? Is she bringing divorce here? It just, you disrupt the comfort in the church. And then also it becomes worse then if you are this divorced woman who then calls herself a feminist and then who wants to talk to other people and want to advise and be vocal about your journey, then it also becomes a problem. So that was the stage of intimidation. Then the last stage, which I identify with right now, is that I'm realizing more and more, especially women, are identifying with me. So I'm no longer an intimidation. I'm no longer a threat. People are now seeing themselves through me, and people are now making examples with me to say, if Slindile can do it, then I can do it. And I think that it's comforting and discomforting at the same time, because I'm that one person who will never advise anyone to divorce. But people are really sitting in really toxic and bad situations and would need to get out. Yeah, that's my mouthful on the two questions.
Yeah. A very big mouthful. Okay, on the first one, the support. You're okay. For me, yeah, it has to be my mom and friends as well. There was a time, okay, for me, I did things unlawfully. I basically ended my marriage in social media. Like, I started writing. That day I was hurtful, for a lack of a better word. I posted my pictures on Facebook. I was swollen, and I started talking about domestic violence. And that's how I ended things. And for me, that was like the breaking of the barrel. Like, it was just enough. I just broke down in front of everybody, so to speak. And so when that happened, now you must keep in mind that my family didn't know about what was happening between my husband. They didn't know about the abuse. They didn't know anything. Now, when this thing happens, this person has stolen my phone, has taken money from my account, and all this and all this. Now people are seeing this post on Facebook. They can't get hold of me. They are worried that, okay, what's happening and whatever. So when finally my family got hold of me, all I could say on the phone was, I want my mom. I just broke down, was like, I just want my mom. And my mom had to leave her house and sacrifice 2 months of her life to come and stay with me. And throughout that 2 months, she mothered me. She didn't just mother me, she mothered me and my children because I was a mess. And she just had to be the cook, the cleaner, the counselor, the therapist, the everything, and trying to understand what was going on, what is going on, why did you not say anything, how do we help you, and all that. So she just became that person. And years later, after the whole thing, this all happened in 2016. She's still that person. She's still that person who says your happiness comes first. So she's still the same, the support structure that I have. Friends, I was listening to Slindile talking about alcohol and whatever. There was a time where I was not coping and I desperately wanted alcohol. I was like, I want to drink. And one of my friends said, look, if you start drinking now, you must just know one thing, you're going to be an alcoholic because right now you are depressed. So if you start drinking once you're depressed, you're not going to stop because every time you have problems, you're going to run to a drink. So don't drink until you're fine. So I had that kind of support that says, don't do this, do that. As much as we can't identify with what you're going through, we don't know what you're going through. All we can offer is ourselves to say, we're here for you. If you need to scream, call. If you need to shout, you need to insult somebody, do whatever, just call. So I have all my friends to thank who went with me through the process and made sure that I was sane. I remained sane in the whole thing. And my mother being the biggest support because she's the one who literally fed me, like would cook and say, please eat. And I'd be like, I don't have appetite. Like, no, you're going to eat, And what are you going to wear? What do you need? You need money. Let's call your brother. You need this, you need that. So I have my mother and my friends to thank. Uslindele, as she said, the church, I don't want to blame them because the church says we want families to be together, and we want people to reconcile. So because I am Sia, there was a point where I told the elders, they'd come to see me. I was like, if any of you ever mention the word reconciliation next to my name, I swear to God that I'm going to insult you because I do not want to hear that. So stop it right there. Whatever you're going to say to me from this moment going onwards, can it please not have anything to do with reconciliation? So the church, in their own way, tried to be there for me. Firstly, it was more of talk to each other, try to fix things, reconcile. And when they saw that I was standing on my ground of, I am not going to do that, they kind of let me be, and where the church, I feel it's lacking when it comes to divorces and divorce and what the church doesn't know how to handle it. Honestly, they don't know how to handle it. They just don't know. And hence for them, the safest bet is you guys need to fix things. You need to reconcile. So they don't know once you've stood your ground and told them that I'm not going to do that, they just don't know how to handle it. So they kind of let you be. I remember there was a time with Usli in a church we were at, we were questioning the family life program, that the family life program is always about married people. Basically it becomes some marriage seminar. And we're like, but there's so many families represented here. There's single-headed families, there's single parents here. There's many types of families that are not seen in the family life program. Why are you pretending as if there are no divorces in the church? Why as if there are no single parents in the church? Why do you always present a picture of a perfect family life of a mommy and a daddy and kids, whereas it's not always the case? But again, in our revolutionary of trying to change things, we didn't win. It was noted, we'll try and do something about it. Years later, nothing has been done about it. So I think, honestly, the church doesn't know how to deal with this thing. Hence, maybe the way of dealing with it was just to avoid it or don't talk about it. Don't try to make it an issue, even though it's an issue.
Wow. So what should the church do, guys? I mean, ultimately, this conversation must give a solution to this issue. on how we need to go forward with this. I mean, at church, that's where we find, what is it, spiritual healing in a way? Actually, it's spiritual healing. And if that aspect of the spiritual healing is not there, I mean, what are we saying as a society? You know, what can be done to remedy that which has not been there for years and years, centuries and centuries? Should you do?
Yeah, I think the church really needs to change the way in which it looks at society in totality. There is too much, I don't want to call it discrimination,
She frozen.
but we're not. So for me, I would say one, make church a neutral and safe space for all. We both belong to this church. Let the church not feel the need to take sides. I know it's difficult because we are in cliques, we are friends here, and it's easy for people to want to take side, but it really should be a safe space for everybody. Also, to add on what Sia had already said, we tried this revolution with her. I think we ended up in more hot water than assisting. The church needs to put enough emphasis on all kinds of families. There are child headed homes, there are single fathers, there are single mothers, there are, there are widowers, and there are different types of families. And the same emphasis we put on Dorcas and AMO and AWM as the Seventh-day Adventist Church, because we keep saying church, church, and I think people are thinking, what church are these people belonging to? The Seventh-day Adventist Church needs to put wear realistic glasses and see a realistic picture and lens and put the same effort, because if we as a church are going to encourage marriage alone, we're forgetting how inevitable divorce is.
Yeah.
Because once you enter into a marriage, you stand a 50% chance of also ending up divorced. We can't run away from that. The statistics are there. So if the church is going to put effort in encouraging marriage, let them put a true picture of what marriage is, not what they're selling us now, not the dream that they're selling now, but let them also put a true glimpse of what divorce is. So you become prepared prior. What is incoming of property? What is a prenup? What is a divorce process? How costly is the divorce process? So that when you enter into this thing, you guys, both of you, you are aware that we don't want to end up here, but if we do, this is how we maneuver, and this is how safe we are even within the church. And I think that would be a good premise. I think it's a difficult program for them. That's why in 2021 they haven't figured it out. But there are women like Sia who are very vocal, who are there, who are already doing the counseling, who are already doing the work. And myself, who can avail ourselves to say, we are not promoting divorce. We will never promote divorce. And I think the last question was that, to say, what advice would you give to someone getting married, someone getting divorced? Divorce is painful. And if I were to advise someone thinking about divorce, I would say, please reconsider if possible. If your life is not in danger, if your children's lives are not in danger, reconsider and try and work at marriage, right? But at the same time, I would then say to advise someone who's thinking of getting divorced, plan your exit. Don't be haphazard, start, if possible, start mourning the divorce and the relationship while we are still there, and start detoxing it while we are still there, so that you don't end up in a psychiatric ward like some of us. Because I think I got divorced on a Friday. On Tuesday, I was admitted into hospital. So start dealing with it. Prepare yourself mentally, emotionally, financially. You are married to this person, they are financially stronger than you. You can't just take your bags and leave. You've got financial interests to look after. You've got money that you deserve in that marriage. So plan everything in detail. Plan your exit. Where are you going to go and live? How are your children going to survive through this, and so forth? And but also know that as much as it's that demanding, it's doable. You can start over again. We've done it. And advice to someone getting married, I would say congratulations. I would say congratulations. Go for it. I almost said don't do it. Go for it. Marriage is a beautiful thing. And if it's done properly, if the family structures are strong, if both families, yours and your husband's side, they want that marriage to work, you've already done 30% of the work, if not 50, because everyone is vouching for you and everyone wants this thing to work. But just know it's an everyday work. You wake up every day thinking, how can I make him smile? How can I make his day better? And your needs become secondary because you are hoping that wherever he is, he's also thinking, how can I make her smile? So it's work, it's done every day. I mean, it's a cliche. It's what you've heard a million times. It is that, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's start with the church. How can the church do better? Churches need to be a safe space, number one. As Liz is mentioned in her experience, there's a time she stopped going to church. I also went through that. There was a time I stopped going to church because I felt like church was not working for me. I was not angry at God. I was okay with God, but I was not okay with his people. So church was. So churches need to be a safe space. There should be enough support and enough welcoming for whoever person, no matter what experience you have, no matter what you're going through. Church should be the place that you run to, should be a place of refuge, should be a place where you can be vulnerable, you can be totally naked, and be accepted and loved the same way or even more than you were loved before. So churches should be a safe space. Usli has already said that all kinds of families exist. So the church needs to stop sweeping things under the carpet. They need to stop acting as if there are no divorces or acting as if people are not going to get divorced. So the reason people will not go to church when they are contemplating divorce, it's because they know that they are going to be judged and they know that they are going to be, the Bible is going to be used against them. There's one statement I hate the most: God hates divorce. That statement is one statement that has killed a lot of women because it was said God hates divorce and they stayed in abusive marriages and then they died there. So church needs to open their eyes to the reality that there is divorce and it doesn't matter what's the reason leading to divorce. But the fact that a person who swore to love and honor one person for the rest of their lives get to a point where they say, this is not working for me. It has taken them so much for them to get to the point where they think they want to divorce. So you cannot wash away my experience by one statement that says God hates divorce. So the church needs to be prepared in how they handle those cases, and also be supportive to the people that are contemplating or that they are divorcing. Okay, that's the church. What would I say to a person who wants to get married? I think we've said it throughout this conversation that get to know yourself. Please don't if you haven't fully figured who you are, don't get married. I don't want to put age to this. I don't want to say don't get married at a certain age or whatever, but do the work of getting to know yourself better. Because when you know yourself, you are able to know what are your boundaries. You know your break points. You know your triggers. You know all these things. And you are better prepared to deal with other human beings because you've taken time to know who this person is. So the whole point, I think the original point of premarital counseling is that you get to open up to who you are and to get to open up for who this person is. But the mistake that we do as people, we take premarital counseling when we've already have a wedding date set, when the preparations are already there. But if we actually were to say, let's take premarital counseling, even before we know when we're getting married, but the fact that we've thought of getting married, let us go for counseling. That counseling will tell you if you are ready for this marriage or not. And you are able to say, let me cut my losses and go. And without paying for the tent or the venue or the dress or the rings or the suit or whatever that needs to go into a wedding preparation. So it's important. And that counseling will also counsel you, and you'll get to know what triggers you, what are your traumas, what are you, and a person who gets married at 21, young, no child, no history of being married before and whatever, is not going to have the same experience as a person who's going to get married at 38 with 3 kids and a divorce. You understand? So take the measures that are applicable to your situation. For an example, if I were to get married now, I am bringing a whole new human being to be a father to a 14-year-old. My firstborn is 14. So is that person prepared to father a 14-year-old? Maybe they don't have children, or maybe they have younger kids. Maybe they have a 7-year-old. They don't know how to deal with teenagers. I live with 2 teenagers. You know, my son is turning 13 and I have a 7-year-old. So my experience already says I have a baggage, honestly. So if I want to marry a person who has never married before, doesn't have kids or whatever, I am already setting myself up for disaster, because I am asking a person to adapt to an experience that they do not have. So because I have gotten to know myself, I know the kind of guy I would even look towards, because I think they have enough maturity to understand my situation and my baggage that I bring. And I also have to be prepared to deal with their baggage. So a person who has never been married before, who expects breakfast in bed every day and whatever, and have this illusion of marriage, is not going to fit into my life, because I'm going to be like, no, you know. So depending on what stage you're at in life, prepare according to that stage. Okay, and then lastly, to a person who is contemplating divorce, I think Slee has said it all. If you're really thinking about it, I would assume that you have done all the work. You've tried everything that you can. All I can say is prepare your children as well. Children get hurt. Children have emotions. Children see. Children tend to blame themselves for whatever has happened between parents. So be age appropriate, yes, depending on how old your children are, but sit them down and let them in. You know, talk to them. Tell them that mommy and daddy have tried to make this work. It's not working because of whatever reason. And therefore, this is the route that we're taking. Doesn't mean that we love you any less, doesn't mean whatever. It just means that whatever we're trying between ourselves is not working. So just a word of caution there, that don't leave your children in the darkness. And please, there are child psychologists. If you cannot get through to them, take them for counseling until they are well enough.
Wow, man. Yo, this conversation, I feel like I like, you know, when someone doesn't, like, it's the first time I hear of this thing. To be honest, let me just be honest, this is the first time I sit and listen to people who are divorced talk about this issue. Honestly, I've never heard of this conversation. It's really been mind-blowing for me. In closing, guys, your closing remarks. If people forget what you've said since we started the conversation, what should they remember about this conversation? Closing remarks.
Okay, so I didn't prepare closing remarks, but I'm going to answer the question. I'm going to answer the question that I think I may have missed. That says, if you were to get married again, what would you do differently? And I'll use that as my closing remarks. I would communicate that in my communication style will need to change and be able to compliment the next person. I will spend more time understanding that person and be able to say, do we complement each other? Is it easy? Are we in sync? Are we trying too hard? What can be improved there and there? I would invest more time in being whole. I will have my own friends. I will have, not that we won't have mutual friends, but it really is important for you to maintain a life of your own, and your marriage doesn't define you. So you
Yes.
don't become so and so's wife, you become Slindy.
Mm.
And I think that I would do differently this time around. And I will also encourage him to do the same, to say to him, baby, would you like, are you going out with your friends? Go enjoy yourself. That time alone with him and his own friends will be good for the marriage. And the clinginess that I may have had in the past, I've released that. I will be more accepting and understanding. I think I've seen so many things, and I've been battered and bruised by life, that to be judgmental to your partner and these expectations that are unrealistic, to say, I expect you to wake me up at 4 with breakfast in bed. I expect you, those things, it I would be more adaptive to say, okay, because in a relationship we both grow. Now, the question is, do we try and grow together, or are we really growing apart? So it's an issue of acceptance and understanding, to say he's growing in his own way and I have no control over that. And I would have more sex. I think I was just deprived of sex in my first marriage. And the guy I'm going to get married to, he's never going to sleep. So yeah, that's what I would do better. But in closing, in closing, I would say that God makes promises to us, and God says, in Isaiah 54, He says, "You are like a bride that was rejected in her youth." And God makes promises, and He says, "I will raise your children for you. You will never see that anger." And He says He will stretch our tents, and that has been my text of reference, throughout this journey, where God is promising me that no weapon formed against me shall prosper. And I can say God has been faithful. It's not easy. Here at this place called Know Your Worth, it's not nice. It's very lonely. It's emotionally draining. You come home, you deal with children, and there's no adult. You don't, you just longing for adult conversation. But through it all, God has proven to sustain us. And I think if we can be able to go back to that, and accept, this is my journey. I'm going to go through it. I'm going to go through all the emotions and the feelings, because there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It may not be a new
Yeah.
marriage, it may not be a new man, but whatever I will get at the end of it, it will be what is best for me.
Mm.
So for me, that's what keeps me going.
I really said amen. Amen.
Any closing remarks? Okay, for me, I don't know. I don't see marriage for me again. I don't think it's something I desire, honestly. So I can't speak from a point of what I would do better. But my closing remarks are, one, marriage is not for kids. Take time to grow, take time to mature. And I don't want to put age, as I said, I don't want to put age into this. There are a lot of grown people age-wise, but very immature. So marriage is not for kids. Take time to grow, take time to honestly learn how to relate to people, because the reality of marriage is that you are going to have to deal with this person that you were not born with, this person that comes from a
Yeah.
totally different background from yours, this person that you are supposed to get along with, and you're going to deal with this person's awkwardness, imperfections, flaws, and all each and every day. And because this is the person you are going to be living with, your worst flaws are going to be exposed to him. His worst flaws are going to be exposed to you. So if you are not ready to deal with that, don't get married. Grow up, take time to grow up. Secondly, be kind to yourself. We spoke a lot about healing. We spoke about getting to know yourself, but please do not take yourself as an unending improvement project. Be kind to yourself. Take time to relax. Take time to enjoy life. Don't be unrealistically putting end dates to your healing or tick off boxes to this is what I should have done by this time or whatever, or this is how I should be feeling by this time. Allow yourself to go through the growing, through the healing, but be compassionate and kind to yourself. If self-care for you means walking around the house braless in your pajamas, eating ice cream or whatever, that's what that day calls for. If one day calls for a day spa, that's what it calls for that day. But just be kind to yourself and allow yourself to just be a child. Most of us trapped in adult bodies and adult experiences and adult responsibilities. But there's a little child in us that's yelling, that's crying, that we keep on ignoring. So allow that child to come out. Allow yourself to play. Go on dates with your friends, go on solo dates with yourself, go sit in your corner in your favorite hangout spot and sip on orange juice or milkshake or coffee or whatever, and just be kind to yourself. I don't know, all of us are going through this growing up and adulting stuff and whatever, and we all have to find coping mechanisms. We all have to find things that make sense to us, that make life more meaningful. Find those things for yourself and just apply kindness every day. Make it a point to be kind to yourself.
Wow, guys. Wow. Thank you for those closing remarks. I've learned so much. I don't know about the people who are listening here in Zoom and YouTube, but personally, I've learned so much, and I want to thank you, ladies, for coming through and opening our eyes to this conversation. For sure, many people, wherever they are, they're like, "What? I didn't know this is what is happening," And I think this is just the beginning of such conversations. Definitely. In the future, we're gonna have another one. Obviously looking at a different aspect of this whole thing, and you ladies are gonna be there. To our what viewers, yes, everyone who was watching on YouTube, those who are here on Zoom, thank you so much for coming through. And if you realize throughout, this has been season 2 of Being Real. If you realize, we've been talking about relationships, and tonight it's our last episode of season 2. So watch out for season 3 of Being Real. We'll just look at watch out on IG, Instagram, Facebook, and some of those people who have our contacts on WhatsApp. Just watch out for season 3. Thank you so much for coming through. If you have not subscribed, followed us, liked, please do so on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.